The myth of a great flood has been passed down in the Western tradition for millennia. The book of Genesis in the Bible records that upon seeing how wicked and evil humans had become, God decided to cleanse the world. He made it rain for 40 days and 40 nights, flooding the earth with people scrambling for high ground to save themselves. But the water kept on rising. And yeah, I don't know why they're all naked. I mean, maybe people just didn't wear clothes in those days. Although the waters wiped out civilization, God had appointed a savior, the one man whose heart was with God and hadn't turned to wickedness. Noah understood the divine plan even when others doubted.
He destroys all, only to start again.
So Noah built a massive ark to preserve his family and 2 of every species of animal and ride out the great flood, starting civilization anew when it was over. The traditional biblical date for this flood is around 2350 BC. Well, guess what? China also has a story of a great flood, and this flood is supposed to have happened during the reigns of the legendary emperors Yao and Shun, somewhere around the same time. Around 2300 to 2200 BC is the estimate, which, when you're dealing with something 4,000 years ago, 100 years could easily be the margin for error. So basically it's the same time. So was it the same flood? Well, most probably yes. And in this video, we are going to look at the fascinating circumstances around China's Great Flood and their savior who came to the rescue. This is China's flood myth explained. And this video is brought to you by Puretong, but more on that later. So in China, their great flood happened during the reigns of the great sage emperors Yao and Shun. It started during Yao's reign. Both the Yangtze and Yellow River valleys flooded, as is recorded in the Shi Ji. During the time of Yao, floodwaters overflowed throughout the land. The torrent covered mountains and hills, inflicting sorrow on people in the low-lying areas. The Chinese do have a long tradition of viewing disasters such as floods, droughts, and famines as warnings from the gods, or signs that the mandate of heaven, or Tianming, was being withdrawn. Often natural disasters abounded near the end of one dynasty and the beginning of a new one, and the guy who eventually saved China did come to a realization that if you exercise virtuous governance, the gods would assist you. But we'll get to that later. So Yao sought someone to control the water, and his officials, known as the Four Mountains, recommended a man named Gun. Now, Yao apparently knew this guy and didn't think too highly of him, but listened to the recommendation and went with him anyway. It is recorded in the Shi Ji. Thus Yao listened to the Four Mountains and used Gun to tame the waters. Gun tried for 9 years and the water didn't stop. His efforts were fruitless. In some accounts, he is portrayed as a trickster, Loki-like character. He even stole this supernatural self-expanding soil from heaven to try and control the flood, but it failed to work and angered the gods. So management of the empire got hard and Yao sought more help. This time, the Four Mountains recommended Shun, who was a distant relative of Yao and a descendant of the Yellow Emperor. Shun became the emperor and toured the country. Upon seeing that Gun's efforts of controlling the water were useless, he exiled him to Feather Mountain, or Yushan, to die. But on that mountain, Gun had a son. Now, the Shanhai Jing, or Classic of Mountains and Seas, says that this son was born from the belly of Gun's decomposing corpse. Which is wild, but I mean, the Monkey King was born out of a rock, so for Chinese mythology, it's really not that crazy. But who knows, maybe he just met a girl on the mountain before he died. However it happened, he had a son named Yu. And if Gun was Anakin Skywalker, the one who was supposed to save the galaxy but failed,
you were the chosen one!
Then Yu was Luke Skywalker, who finished his father's mission.
Use the Force, Luke.
Confirming that the Four Mountains were correct to recommend Gun in the first place, because the use of Gun would lead to his son actually succeeding. So how exactly did Yu do it? Well, we will get to that, but first, do you suffer from stress and anxiety because of work? Are you tired after a long day of using your brain? It happens to me when I'm meticulously researching Chinese classical texts to produce the videos like the one you are watching now. Thus, I want to introduce you to Puretong's black ginseng extract. Puretong's black ginseng helps to regulate blood sugar, improve brain functions, overall health, and immunity. After 1 week of drinking the black ginseng, I felt improvement in my sense of logic and memory. Puretong's black ginseng is made with Korean ginseng aged for 6 years. Through a process of steaming and drying 9 times, 100% by hand. This unlocks active ingredients and boosts absorption. Ginsenoside RG3, which boosts immunity and helps to prevent cancer, is 8 times higher in Puretong's black ginseng compared to regular red ginseng. The human body can also absorb more than 80% of the ginsenosides in black ginseng, 6 times that of red ginseng. Right now, with the Christmas holiday season approaching, not only is this great for yourself, but it is a great gift to care for your loved one's health. Head to my link in the description section of this video and get your Puretong Black Ginseng today. Enter code BH2023 for free shipping on your order worldwide. So you started to look for ways to control the water. This wasn't like in the West, where Noah's family escaped on a massive boat. In China, there were relatively more tall mountains, so the people who were left over were the ones who didn't drown and had escaped to the mountains. And Yu was looking for a way to drain the water out of the Yangtze and Yellow River valleys so that they could return to the area they once inhabited and continue the agriculture and industry that they needed to survive. There is a Chinese saying about Yu the Great, 三过家门而不入. He passed his house 3 times and did not enter. This refers to the story that it was supposedly just a few days after his wedding that he was appointed to control the flood. And he was so determined at it that he did not go home. First time he passed his house, he heard his wife in labor, and then she gave birth and he heard the sound of his son crying, and he did not go in. The second time he passed by, his son was in his wife's arms and she beckoned him in, but it was at a crucial point in digging channels to drain the water, so he didn't enter. He just waved. Nice guy. And the third time, his son was already over 10 years old, and he again didn't enter. He was more concerned that there were so many people made homeless by the flood that he couldn't rest until his job was done. It's a bit hard with a modern mindset to understand. He comes across as cold and uncaring for his family by our modern day standards. But if you step into a world without modern technology, where every second counted in a life and death struggle to survive, then maybe your thinking would be a little bit different and you might be able to understand his mindset. So that is his determination. But what was the turning point in him actually figuring out how to drain the waters? So there was one day when Yu the Great saw a divine turtle in a river, and he noticed that there was a pattern on its shell. It looked like the Luo Shu, an ancient mystical diagram with connections to numerology and the motion of the universe. There is a sentence in the Zhou Yi that states, 若出书，圣人则之, meaning that if a ruler had virtue, the heavens would bestow upon him a Luo Shu diagram. And now that Luo Shu diagram was laying right in front of Yu on the turtle's back, an apparent acknowledgement from the heavens. This reinforced Yu's determination and enlightened Yu to the principle that a virtuous ruler could get divine help. And it was after this that things really started to get moving. Yu then supposedly started getting help from all sorts of gods and mystical creatures, including a yellow dragon and a black turtle, and was even allowed to use the self-expanding soil that his father had stolen from the heavens. He was able to dig channels to drain the water out and fight off all sorts of beasts that had inhabited the floodplains, saving China. Shun was so impressed with Yu's determination and his sheer virtue, caring for the people of the country even at the expense of his own family, that he offered the throne to Yu instead of his own son, and so Yu became the first emperor of the Xia dynasty, the first of China's 3 ancient dynasties, the Xia, Shang, and Zhou. He ruled the Xia dynasty for 45 years and then died at almost 100 years old of an illness while on a hunting trip to present-day Shaoxing in eastern China. There's still a mausoleum at the place of his death, which has been rebuilt many times over the centuries. The amazing thing when comparing China's flood myth to that of the West is that not only do we have a flood that occurred around the same time, but we also have 2 figures with a very similar story, a story of determination and absolute faith in the divine. They both followed exactly what God wanted them to do. In Noah's case, he built an ark even when everyone else around him tried to make him waver. And for Yu the Great, his mission from heaven, which technically was given to him by the emperor, but the emperor is known as Tianzi, okay, the representative of heaven on earth. So it was a mission from heaven to tame the waters, even overrode his bond with his own family, and he sacrificed for the greater good, later being rewarded becoming an emperor because of his incredible devotion and virtue. Could it be that God, or the gods, were teaching man the exact same concept of faith in the divine on two different sides of the earth at the exact same time in history? Well, you can be the judge of that, or you can just take it as a cool mythological story. Either way is fine by me. Let me know if there are more Chinese mythological stories you want to hear about in the comments below. Please subscribe to the channel if you're new, and don't forget to get free shipping on your order of Puretang Black Ginseng with my code BH2023. You can check that out in the link below. We'll see you next time.